Can somebody read Luke chapter 5, verse 3? What does that say? Getting into one of the boats, Simon's, he asked them to put out a little from the land, and he sat down and he taught the people from the. He sat down and he taught the people from the. Okay, if you want another choice, I can give you Matthew chapter 13, verse 2. And great crowds gathered about him, so he got into a boat and sat down, and the whole crowd stood on the beach. In both the places, the preacher is sitting. In one, they are sitting. In one, they are. So I give you the choice. You can stand and listen if you want. You can sit and listen if you want. Thank you. Many people have told me over the years, you need to lose weight. And then some people say, Ilana, even from far, you're seen. So we like you to be the way you are. So, Father, we thank you this evening as we've come here as mortal human beings with our struggles, with our failures, with our questions, with our disappointments. Lord, I pray that you will take control of the situation. Every soul, every person brought under the subjection of the Holy Spirit. Speak to us in Jesus' name. Amen. Lust, sex, masturbation, pornography, these are not new words, but in the last 10, 15 years, because of the onslaught of media and internet and availability of things and secrecy, it has affected far more people than it did earlier. Billy Graham said, most of us don't sin because we don't have an opportunity to sin. It was in his times. And last year, when I had gone to Billy Graham Foundation where he's been laid, I was sitting there and crying in Charlotte, US. And I was just looking at this man who has been there from the 1920s. For him to see the culture shock of how US had changed, how times had changed, for him to live through that and to see what Christendom had become, what society had become, should have been really heart-wrenching. And I sat there and cried because he kept his purity intact. And there was this article I read where Jimmy Swaggart, who was one of the greatest preachers of his time, powerful preacher, powerful singer, I don't know any combination who could be excellent as a singer, who could fill stadiums, and as excellent as a preacher as he was. Very powerful. Committed adultery in his late 60s with prostitutes. And when they asked him later, he said, I've always preached about sin, but I never knew the sting of sin. And in one of the meetings he was supposed to preach, Billy Graham was replaced. And the media, as usual, wanted to pit one against the other. And they asked Billy Graham, what do you think about this man of God who's fallen into sin? And Billy Graham beautifully said, this could have happened to any of us. Let's not destroy a fellow soldier who's won thousands of people for the Lord. The Bible very clearly says this. Let him who thinks he stands pay heed lest he fall. So between standing and falling, there is only one word which says pay heed. So I'm going to be candid, I'm going to be practical, I'm going to be opening my heart and sharing with you guys things which we need to hear, need to listen. Sex by itself is not wrong. Money by itself is not wrong. Internet by itself is not wrong. If there was no sex, you wouldn't be born, right? Money, without money, we couldn't have reached thousands and thousands of souls, missions, missionary movements, churches, schools, colleges, proclaiming the gospel. Internet is used to help so many people reach out the word of God to places where people can't afford to have churches. So these by itself is not evil. But what the devil usually does is he twists what God has created and makes it a bit attractive and dirty. And you need to understand how that works. Fire is good. Without fire, you can't cook. Without fire, you can't build buildings. You can't weld. You can't do a lot of stuff. But fire can also destroy, right? It's what you do with the fire. Food. What is the purpose of food? If you don't eat, after a while, you will die. So you eat food to sustain yourself because your body needs. But the added benefit of food is food can also be tasty. But the primary purpose of food is not taste. Primary purpose of food is what? For your nourishment, for you to sustain. But the taste is part of it. The purpose of sex is procreation, reproduction. But God added pleasure to it, right? Just like food. Food fills you, but it also has got taste. What happens if you keep on indulging because the food is tasty? You have problems, right? So you need to understand things for what they are and how the devil takes it and manipulates it. And you got to deal with it. You can't be living in hiding and in secrecy as if these things don't happen. God created man in such a beautiful way. Man created nature in such a way. I used to breed dogs. I used to breed Great Danes, big dogs. Nobody taught the male dog what is sexual reproduction. Nobody had a sex education class for the female dog. Nobody showed a video saying this is how a male dog should have sex with a female dog, and that's how the babies come. Nobody trains the female dog what to do once the baby is born. There's no nurse, no doctor. Nobody trains the female dog saying, you know what? You got to give milk to your puppies, right? Does anybody teach that? You see dogs on the road, okay? On particular month, you see they're all making out. Who taught them? Internet? Some WhatsApp video? Do I make sense or not? Right? So God has created us in such a way that nobody needs to teach us these things. We've been here for thousands and thousands of years. Yesterday, I saw a beautiful video of a male fish which makes under this the bottom of the sea. It makes such beautiful patterns. Architecturally, it looks so brilliant. So that the female will come and lay its egg, and when it's about to lay the egg, the male just goes and slightly squeezes the cheek so that the eggs can be laid. And so brilliantly it's orchestrated. And I'm just wondering, God, what a powerful creation. Who teaches these things to these small creatures? So you don't have to watch internet, or you don't have to have friends to teach you all these things. And unfortunately, what happens is most of our sex education doesn't come from our books. It comes from our friends who think they are PhDs when you're in the school. Hey, macha, epurra? And that fellow, as if he's a professor. Mama, இப்படிதான்டா மாமா. அவனே ஒரு அறவேக்காடு, அவனுக்கே ஒன்றும் தெரியாது. கரெக்டா? அவர் நமக்கு ப்ரொஃபஸர் ஆகிட்டு இப்படிதான் மாப்பிள்ள, அப்படிதான் மாப்பிள்ள. And as a community, as Indians, we are so curious. Before marriage, I thought, let me go for a premarital counseling. Let me know how to deal with, my wife whenever I get married. And one of my friends was there, and we had a casual conversation. It was a Christian premarital counsel, and one of the resource persons were there. So this guy, he went and asked, "Can I ask you a question?" He said, "Yeah, please. How many times do you have sex?" Right? And that person was in their 40s. So he said, once or twice a month. This fellow was so dejected, disappointed. What on earth are you saying, bro? Once or twice a month? He thought it will happen like 5 times in a day. He was so, he couldn't like, what is this here? You're having a laddu in your hand and you're eating. That kind of feeling. Because for most of us, marriage is an outlet to sex. This guy was so disappointed. And I said, Macha, what is this? How can you ask such a question? No, I want to know. Fast forward, after this fellow gets married, he has 3 children. I see him on the road, I'm passing by in the bike, and Macha, how many times? Once a month, it's still too much, Macha. Eh? So the grass is always greener on the other side. So that's the reality. All bachelors, they think, wow, this is what's gonna come on, baby, let's do it. So the devil distorts all this information, okay, and makes us go through this. So you see it for what it is. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 27. Give someone a mic to read the Bible. It will be helpful. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 27. Can a man carry fire next to his chest and his clothes not be burnt? Can a man scoop fire into his lap and not be burnt? Can you keep a chair or something? Can a man scoop fire into his lap and not be burnt? Like I said, fire is useful. Fire is useful, but you need to know what you use the fire for. And that's where you need to think, why is the devil working overtime to supply you with all this pornography and sex content? Who's making money out of it? Did you ever think about it? You don't pay anything. You browse through your internet, which you pay an unlimited package. Who makes money out of this? The devil has a very clear-cut strategy of getting people burned with a fire that God ordained. When it is not put to the right use, it becomes abuse. Right? Why do you suddenly have so many rape cases happening? A doctor is there, she's tired, she's lying down. One guy sees her, immediately he wants to rape her, and then after he rapes, he wants to cover the crime, so he kills her. Friends go for a party because one of the girls has a promotion. She trusts them so much, she goes with five guys to the pub and they rape her. Friends. How does this come? He keeps feeding you with all this information, makes you desperate, makes you perverse because men objectify things. So obviously these things attract and these things keep on playing in your mind, and understand this is fire. And that's where the sisters also have to be very careful, because most of us don't sin because there is no opportunity to sin. The heart is deceitful. Out of the heart, wicked things come. So you can't say, no, I thought he was my true friend. No. You got to know your barriers. You need to understand how these things work. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He's very suggestive. He'll never thrust things on you. He'll make you make the choice. And the Bible is very candid about it. We don't preach about it in the churches because most of the time in the morning when we preach on Sunday mornings, we are addressing existential issues. We don't address these issues. And it's time we address these issues because it's destroying marriages as well. Very strategically, very brilliantly, the devil has planned it. Read with me Job 31:1, one of the oldest books. Job was a patriarch. So basically, he was during the Genesis times, though his book is placed much, much later. Job, one of the oldest books, a guy who's married, who has children, makes a statement like this: I made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at a young woman. When was this? During the time of the patriarchs. I have made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at a young woman, because 40% of what you see, whether you like it or not, goes into your system. So I got to be careful. I need to know this eyes can, waver and look at things and stuff like that. Through that, it goes into my system. And Job says back then, without any internet, without any phones, without any sex magazines, without any secrecy, he says, I have made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at a young woman, because it is in my nature, the sinful nature, the fallen nature. That's what I will do. So what God I do, I take precaution, I make a covenant, I'll be careful with what I engage with my eyes. And if he could do that when there was absolutely no other media which is pushing the content to him, he's taking the initiative. You understand the problem is real. Fast forward, you come to Joseph's time. Joseph's brothers live a very promiscuous life. They are very weak in this area. But Joseph is away from his family. Nobody is watching him. A raw deal has been dealt to him. Parent is not there. Nobody is there to watch. He's already in a broken state of mind. And always the devil comes to you when you're emotionally down. The devil comes to you when you're challenged by your circumstances. The devil comes to you when you're all alone. And that's exactly what Joseph was going through. His boss's wife comes day after day, and every day she says, honey, let's do it. Sin keeps coming at you. It is persuasive. It'll always come at you. Once you say no, it doesn't go back. It'll come back at you. It'll come back to you. It'll come back to you. It'll come back at you. And there comes a moment he's all alone, nobody else is there. And loneliness is a perfect time where the devil has strategically kept pushing the content, pushing the content, pushing the content, pushing the content. While you're emotionally low, you're feeling lonely, nobody else is watching. My brothers have abandoned me. My father is not there. Nobody is to watch. I'm having such a bad time in my life. And guess what? Sex is pleasure, right? It gives you pleasure. It kicks in the dopamine effect and you feel good. But he says, I will not do this. How can I do this thing against the Lord? He flees from that place. Once I had finished preaching in CA camp for the Tamil churches, close to 10,000 youth were there. I just finished preaching and I come down and a young girl comes and says, Freddie and I want to speak to you. I said, yes, ma'am, I'm too tired, just preach for 1.5 hours. You can give me a call. She did call me. She said, I'm a pastor's daughter. When I was in 10th standard, I was sexually abused. I've always looked for love, and I was in my plus two. I got into a relationship which became physical, and that boy taught me a lot of things. He introduced me to pornography, he introduced me to a lot of things. And later, physically, after we were intimate, he started avoiding me. And that started making me much more bitter. I was so unhappy. I went and spoke to his mother, and I told his mother, you are son and myself, we've done all these things. The mother said, no, 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 we are a very holy family. We do not do all this. She goes to the women police station, complains about this guy. They bring the guy, they counter him and they ask him questions. He agrees. The constable asks the girls, what do you want to do with this guy? He's a coward. She gives him a tight slap and says, that is just to tell you, don't play with me. She says, my parents don't know about this, but I have a separate room. I have my own laptop. I'm alone. Every time I feel lonely, every time I feel down, I go back to the things he's taught me. I think that will gratify me and give me pleasure. And after that, I feel so stinking bad. And the next day morning, I have to go lead worship. You still think that God can forgive me? I said, Amma, you're looking for a father's love. Your dad is busy in ministry. So every relationship you get into, you're looking for that love, but that person is not giving you that love. That person is looking you as an object. These are times where boys, girls mingle with each other. There are times 20 years back, if you even talk to somebody, you knew belt was waiting in your house. We used to write love letters and get caught. Now none of you get caught. Does that mean that you guys don't write? It's all secretive. Any guy who objectifies you and says anything about physical aspect while you're dating or courting while you're in your love, be careful, it's not love, it's lust. What God ordains is inside the marriage. Anything else just to let you know that you love me as an expression, hey, you all that is nonsense. Don't mess it up. I'll tell you what the devil is trying to do. He makes you experience apple now, right? You never know whether you're going to marry the apple or not. And then after an apple, a mango comes. And you say, wow, this is sweeter than the apple. You don't get married to the mango as well. You get married to a watermelon. If everything is going smooth with the watermelon, fine. But things will not always go smooth. That's the nature of marriage. At that time, you think the apple was nice, no? The mango was better, no? Now, guys like to play this game. Pick up, drop, escape. Pick up, drop. So I was in MCC college and I told the guys, imagine you get a wife who's been picked up, dropped, because you want the fruit to be tasted the first time, right? But everybody else, and what the devil does is he destroys your marriage, he destroys your life, everything is gone because it's virtually a comparison always. And you'll never be thankful. So Job understands this. He says, I made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at a young woman because it's not about the media, it's my inherent nature which makes me do this. So you got to understand the devil tries to give you all these things to, make you imagine, make you objectify, make you attractive and all this, and you keep struggling, and then comes the desire to do things because so long you're just seeing these things. The difference between getting drunk and pornography is for you to get actually drunk, you need to drink. Lust is not like that. You can imagine and get the dopamine effect. You can watch things, masturbate, get your effect. You don't have to actually do it. And that's why the devil is fighting over your mind. The devil is fighting over your mind. Mark 4, chapter 24 says, consider carefully what you hear. Consider carefully what you hear. Be careful about what you are hearing. Be careful about what kind of words that go into your ears. Be careful about what kind of conversation you're having. Be careful about what kind of friends you have. What are the things that they are talking about? Sometimes people keep speaking about their relationship, love relationship, and you feel you're not good enough if you don't do certain things. And everything becomes a norm. Today, everything has become a norm. Kissing has become a norm. Having a boyfriend has become a norm. Physical expression of love before marriage has become a norm. It doesn't shock you anymore. That's what the devil does. He takes the sting away from it. He takes the shock away from it. Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your hearts with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues. Guard your heart. Guard your heart. So the Bible is very clear. We started with Job. We came to Joseph. Joseph was able to stand against temptation, run away from it because he was very clear about what God wanted in his life. Fast forward, come to David. David had a problem with the opposite sex. And if you read the passage where David is asking for the bread and the priest says, I don't have any other bread but from the altar, and you need to be very clean in order to eat the bread. And David says, whenever we go to war, we abstain from women. We abstain from women. We don't touch women whenever we go to war. We are clean. The same David, the Bible says, when kings go to war, David was in the palace. Had he gone to war, by his usual principles, he would have been very careful not to touch a woman. But instead of going to the war, he relaxed and let his guard down, and he was still in the palace. And at that time, what happened? It was not that Bathsheba came and fell on him. He was not even looking for her. You should have been in the battlefield because you thought you were strong enough. You just relaxed. You relaxed. An idle mind is a devil's workshop. It's not a Bible verse, but it's true. I always wonder if David was in his palace, what was Bathsheba doing in the palace? He was not looking at her with the telescope. He was not looking at her with the binoculars, right? So if I'm able to see a beautiful woman having bath, she must be somewhere in the visibility of my eyes. And I know David is in the palace. What is Bathsheba doing there? Understand, she is Uriah's wife. Uriah was one of the 30 guys who was close to David. He was the inner circle. So when lust overcomes you, your mind stops working. You've given it up in the lust. You see there is enough time gap for him to be aroused with the attention that she has given. Knowing very well she's Uriah's wife, somebody who's gone to war for him. Lust consumes you. And that's exactly what the devil wanted David to do. After that, his life was a total mess. Judges chapter 16, verse 19. After putting him to sleep on her lap, she called for someone to shave off the 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him. Samson, powerfully anointed, could handle multiple men who could come. But here she is putting him to sleep on her lap. And the guy got so comfortable in her lap, people are coming and shaving his head off, and the fellow is so much asleep. It is almost like she gave him chloroform and put him to sleep that he's like. The devil attracts you, puts you in a comfortable position, makes you feel good, nullifies your defenses, and starts to subdue you. You know, in so many of our lives, this is true. The attraction is there, you feel good, you feel safe, and you go and lie at her lap thinking, okay, what? There's no danger here. She wants me, she makes me feel good, I feel comfortable, I feel nice with her. And then you lose your defense. All along, it was a trap to set you up. Because a he-man had a she weakness. So instead of, oh God, save me from this temptation, save me from this, save me from this. How long am I like this? You feel dirty and you come and everybody is worshipping. You are still crying out for forgiveness. Understand how this entire thing entails out. Understand how the devil is strategically doing this. And then deal with it. James chapter 1 verse 14 and 15. But each person is tempted. Each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then after the desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and when it is fully grown, gives birth to death. Now, each man is tempted when they are drawn by their own lust. Usually I ask 15-year-old guys, hey, who do you get attracted to? To a guy or a girl? I'll be very disturbed if he says I'm attracted to guys. If he says I'm attracted to girls, you're okay. You're normal. Hormones are working. But as I said, the purpose is for procreation. Our mothers have breasts to give us milk, to nurse. The ovaries and vagina is to give birth. A woman's reproductive cycle releases eggs every month because the egg is preparing to conceive at that particular moment. So biologically there are changes, hormonally there are changes. Men also have cycles. And more than you know it, the devil knows it. That's why you need to be aware. It's the moments of loneliness. It's the moments where you're emotionally down. That's when he comes. He's like a roaring lion, right? He's thinking, how can I have this person? When can I get this person all alone? Let me just dump information. Let me just dump information. Slowly, let me just build up on it, build up on it, build up on it. And then suddenly an opportunity comes. Mobile phones, secrecy. What do you use it for? Anybody can see my mobile phone. My wife can see it, my children can see it. Be accountable, be transparent, understand the problem is real. Every man is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire. Now, you don't stay in the same place and negotiate with the devil. You watch Netflix and a nice smooching scene comes. Oh God, no. Oh Father, Lord, let me be pure. Yes, let me wait for the scene to get over. Still, okay? I want to be holy for you, Lord. Yes. You don't do that. How many of you get sexually aroused watching a cartoon? Nowadays, we got to be careful. Even cartoons are like that. Be careful what you watch. Again, remember, you guys are clever. You guys are brilliant. Some fellow is pumping in millions of dollars, sending you content free because he's an idiot. 20, 30 years back, sin was very scary. Rock stars used to have their tongue so much low, death metal, and all this nonsense was there with scary eyes and all that. Kiss, all these bands were there. Nowadays you see nothing like that. Because the devil is very cleverly mixed sin and pleasure. Sin and pleasure. So what drugs used to do now, mobile, internet, chat, sex, all this does, but the effect is the same. You don't get the same high with the same amount. You have to increase the... And internet pornography and lust is starting to destroy marriages as well. Because objectively, as I said, a woman's breast is to feed milk, a woman's vagina, ovaries is primarily to give birth to babies. You objectify it, you show the perfect breast, you show the everything, and then you see in reality your wife is not like that. It's not just now. Go and see all those Khajuraho statues and some of the old statues, how they have sculpted. That's not real. So you objectify, and then you know what happens? The husband loses interest in his wife because he's watching something else. I keep dealing with this. Be careful. These are silent battles which will derail you. I got a message from a sister on Facebook and she said, my husband and I, we fell in love, we got married from college, he's a good God-fearing guy and all that. And I had my first child. During my second child, I was not able to take care of my first child and my second child together. I was not getting my sleep. I was having my post-delivery depression. During this time, I was not able to give attention to my husband. And during those times, one of the days, he starts chatting on FB in the night with some girl from Bangalore who's his friend's friend, and this conversation starts going. Apparently, that girl had fought with her husband that night, and both of them start comforting each other with words. How are you doing? Not great. I'm feeling lonely, blah, 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 blah. And she says, Anna, as the conversation progressed, I see that he was using the same words he uses with me while he was making love with me. He was using the same words with her. He's not seen the girl. It was not physical. But I felt so cheated, so down, that somebody whom I knew for so many years with 2 children, this can happen. Apparently, he asked for forgiveness. He said, I let my guard down. I don't know some of the conversation. You see, it was a setup because at the right time, the girl also is going through something bad. And that's the reason, be careful. Don't go too close to opposite sex to become very comforting. And don't seek that comfort with the opposite sex, because at some point, the line is very thin from where it becomes emotional to physical. You do not know. A soldier, once he was going to the battle and his earlier commander was killed, and as soon as this guy came, the allied forces expected him to attack, and he was not attacking. He waited for 2 days. So the army guy, the top guy, asked, why are you not attacking? And he says, the fact that the previous general was killed means there's a loophole somewhere. I can't be having the same position and fighting. What I can win with strategy, I will not lose with sacrifice. Do you understand what I said? You don't want to face the same problem with the same ammunition that you have had. You understand how he works. Each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire. Now, when you become a child of God, what God does is something beautiful. I need a young man to come here as a volunteer. Can somebody come? Tambi? Third person. You come. You come. I won't do anything, you don't do it. See, before he came to the Lord, the devil has him in his control. Right? He makes him do whatever he wants to be done. He doesn't have strength to overpower the devil. But once you become a child of God, God breaks the power of sin over your life. God breaks the power of sin over your life, and he says, sin shall have no dominion over you. So the devil cannot but force you to do those things, because God has broken the power. God has broken that chain. Right? But the presence of sin is still there till we get zapped up. Right? So the power of sin has been broken. The penalty of sin has been broken on the cross. But the presence of sin is there. But God has broken the dominion of sin over my. That is your present condition. That is your present condition. If you are a child of God, washed by the blood of Jesus, sin shall have no dominion over you, which means it cannot dominate you. But still, why do I keep falling into sin? Because each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire. So it's no longer the devil controlling you. It's that desire in you which he keeps feeding through your eyes, through your ears, through what you see around, and the seed thoughts are being put, and the moment of loneliness comes, moment of isolation comes, moment nobody else is there and somebody makes you feel bad, immediately you go to this, whatever is there. Thank you. This I need to understand, that there is a spiritual battle to put me down, to lay my head on its lap And when I'm asleep, comfortable, to take my hair away, to shave my head so that I do not know what's happening to me. And eventually, what happens? I am subdued. I am subdued. Now, that is this dangerous condition which some of you will be. Some of you are drawn by your lust and get entangled. The power is still in you to go and get entangled. Some of you go to the point of what I call addiction. Without that, you can't. Then there is a next phase where you get into bondage. Bondage is a condition, you know it is bad, you want to come out, but you can't come out. You need to understand if the sin still has power over your life. Has God broken the dominion of sin over your life? Are you like James 16 says? James beautifully put says that what are words we just read. James 1, 14, 15 says, am I being drawn? Am I in the battlefield or am I in the palace not doing anything? All these things you understand, and then you come to a conclusion. You know what? The devil is trying all this to me, and now I am so sick and tired of this. I know it's causing damage. I want to come out, but I cannot. You know, it's sad. Samson almost went to that point because he knows he was using it against him. But still he went. Are you at that phase in your life where you know it's causing you harm? It's causing you disturbance. It's affecting your relationships. You feel dirty, you feel ugly, you feel it's affecting your marriage. And you know, this is the point where Paul says in Romans 7, what I want to do, that I do not do. What I don't want to do, that I do. Oh, what a wretched man I am. Who will deliver me from this? And he responds saying, I thank God for Jesus Christ. So understand how the devil works. Matthew chapter 12, verse 43 to 45. The spirit that has gone out of a man goes about dry places seeking rest, but find none. Then the spirit says, I will return into my house from where I came out. And when he has come, he finds it empty and clean and garnished. Empty, clean, and garnished. Then he goes and takes for himself 7 other spirits that are more wicked than him, and the state of that man is worse than before. Why do you sometimes be set free and then for a time you're okay, and then the next time you fall deeper, and then you are set free for a while and then you fall deeper? Have you been in that cycle? You rise, you stand, you fall. You rise, you stand, you fall. You rise, you stand, you fall. Understand what the devil is doing. Every time the Lord delivers you, he comes back. When he comes back, if there is nothing significant inside you, what do you do to dispel darkness? You just switch on the light. Do you do anything else? And he sees that happening. That keeps you bondage. Some popular doors, what I'm going to tell you, can this be put on? Is it there? These are some of the doors. Be very careful where the devil tries to come into your life. You got to shut it. You can't keep it open and expect to have victory. Has it been put? It's come? Write down. Sex outside of marriage. sex outside of marriage. Many preachers have fallen into this. Many pastors who went to counsel the opposite sex eventually became too close. Nobody is got the strength by themselves unless God enables them. Pornographic websites, masturbation, where what was given to you to give reproduction and mutual pleasure becomes selfish and self gratifying, takes you into a guilt cycle, sexual images in your mind, social media, internet addiction with artificial intelligence. Content is just kept pushing onto you, right? Content is just kept on being pushed, and it knows what you are looking for. Even if you are not looking for that content is pushed. I am searching Facebook farmland for sale in and around Chennai. I am having a pornographic image come there. I have to click, hide this post and report it. See, it's a bait. It's a bait. Dating websites. I know sisters, whenever they feel lonely and they're down, they get into this virtual dating websites, talk to some imaginary person there. Music. Music can influence you. There was a song that came a couple of years back. Daddy, Mummy, veetil illa. Tada poda yarum illa. எதுக்கு ரெண்டு பேரும் சேர்ந்து ஜெபம் பண்ண போறீங்களா? இந்தியாவுடைய எழுப்புதலுக்காக நாங்கள் இரண்டு பேரும் வந்து ஜெபிக்கிறோம் ஆண்டவரே. அக்கினியை அதுக்கா in one meeting I'm saying, guys, you got to be on fire. ஆண்டவருக்காக அக்கினியாக இருக்கணும். Then I'm calling that leader, his phone, ஐயோ பத்திக்கிச்சு. ஏய் என்னடா நடக்குது? But I'm thinking, because I look at all this, right? Years back, almost 40-50 years back, there was a Hindi movie called Bobby. And there was a song in that. Hum tum ek kamre mein band ho. How chavi kho jaye. For what? Lord, in Manipur there are a lot of problems happening. In Northeast, people need to be saved. So we are closing the door. Nobody should open it. So let the key be thrown. What nonsense is this? I'm wondering if that fellow's daughter sang this song, what he'll do. Suggestive. Right? So be careful what the devil is. You need to be wise enough, guys. Be alert, be diligent. Your enemy is seeking who you even. There is no two ways about it. All I'm saying is think differently about the way you've been facing your problem. Don't be indulging in it and still keep fighting, right? As I said, you're watching something bad and they're making out and it's costing you, it's got your attention, and next phase you're getting into arousal. Change the damn channel. Immediately change it to do something new in my life. Something new in my life. The problem with our guys is on one side he wants to hear that. On another side, do something new in my You know, how many of you have seen this mouse trap in your house? In that they have a nice salt fish, coconut, right? Dry fish. What the rat thinks is, hey, somebody's kept some special treat for me today, huh? Nobody's watching, pa. No competition for me today. There was this nice cartoon with that. I believe in miracles. And quickly, what this rat does, goes inside, looks, running come to please, and keeps watching. Suddenly, bites it. டப்புன்னு ஒரு சவுண்டு. யார் கதவை மூடினது? கதவை மூடலப்பா. The entire plan was to set you up. And understand that clickbait that you get, that text message you get. What are you doing? Nothing. What are you doing? Nothing. I was just thinking about you. Me too. Nonsense. Appale po satane. The devil he's been there for a while, but he's dumb. He uses the same strategy. He uses the same strategy. Same karwadu, same coconut, same rat, same mousetrap. And you come, அடுத்த வாட்டி அந்த கருவாடை பார்த்தா நீ ஓடணும்ல. ஐயா சாமி இது வேணாம், you must run. No, I will be watching that karvadu, but I will be in control. No? So see if these doors are active in your life. Whatever it's come up. See which of these doors the devil triggers you, because these are things that goes through your eyes. The sexual content you're looking at, that's the problem. The way you look at the opposite sex, objectifying, that's why the enemy is working 24/7 to keep feeding lust into your mind. And when you're sleeping, be careful, because most of people get these bad dreams during the night and they struggle with it, erotic dreams or something. The devil always comes and sows the tares and the weeds when you're about to sleep. The battle is for your mind. The battle is for your mind. 1 John 2:16. Can somebody read? For all that is in the world, underline the word all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world. Okay? It's from the world. So what are the practical ways I can deal with this? One is, I said, be strategic about, don't be engaging with these doors and expect to get the victory. Develop a prayer partner, an accountability partner with somebody whom you can share, who can help you in this, who can keep you accountable. If a lonely space is getting you the attention, move your laptop to the hall. Move your desktop to the hall. Okay? Slowly train your mind to abstain from all these things and understand by itself it's not wrong. It's given for a reason. It's like fire. How we have tried to handle fire, we keep it at a certain limit. We release the gas at a certain pressure. We do all those things so that it can be constructively used, right? Similarly, be careful about all these things. Just as how we have mastered fire, which can be so destructive, and use it constructively, understand God has given this and the devil wants to destroy it by giving you a distorted image about what this is. Psalms 119:9 says very clearly, these are the only solution the Bible gives. How can a young person stay on the path of purity? By living according to your word. One reason that the devil doesn't want this generation to get more into God's word is that that's your only offensive weapon. You can worship all that you want, you can sing all that you want, but what protects you is how can a young man keep his way pure? By guarding it according to your word. How can I keep my way? I got to guard it. Guard it means I need to understand that there are enemies which are coming for it. I need to understand what kind of enemies will come. Based on the enemies, I prepare my defense plan, right? What you can win by strategy, do not lose by sacrifice. So how do you guard it? When nobody is there, I'm going into this temptation. So what you do is 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, shut down your phone, keep your phone in the hall, don't keep it in the bedroom. Desktop, keep it in the hall, don't keep it in your desk room. Keep it in a place where anybody can see. Because the devil is exactly using your secrecy against you. Because he knows if he keeps on feeding things with you, you will fail. How can a young man preserve his ways? 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 5. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. We take captive every thought. Who takes captive? Who takes captive? Who has the power to take it captive? God has given you the power to take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. சரி, ஒரு வியர்டான தாட் வருது, ஒரு lustful thought வருது. எனக்கு வந்து ஈர்ப்பு, during my emotional surges there, my hormonal surges there, physically I am alone and this thought is coming. What do I do? The Bible is very clear. Subject that thought, bring it into captivity to the subjection of Christ. Let it go through the filter. You start doing it, you start doing it, you start doing it. The Bible beautifully says this. When I hide your word in my heart. How can a young man cleanse his ways? By your word. So there is no alternate, there is no G-boomba. This is something as you're living, it's going to be constantly happening. So you better come up with a game plan. You better come up with a game plan. You better have an accountability partner. You better be transparent with people whom you can talk, who will not judge you in this aspect. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 3. This is the will of God, that you should abstain from sexual immorality. For God did not call us into uncleanness, but in holiness. You should abstain. You should abstain. What does that word mean? Bring it captive. Choice is yours. You should abstain. Choice is yours. So will God ask you to do something which you don't have the power to do it? Sin has no dominion. But what kind of power are you tapping into too? Your mobile phone runs out of charge, boss. What do? You recharge it. A dead mobile phone is of no use. So you keep recharging the phone so it will do what it is supposed to do. You keep feeding your spirit. You keep feeding your spiritual life. And then you will have your weapons to overcome what the devil throws. You know what he's doing. You know it's going to disturb you. You know it's going to destroy your relationships. You know you feel sick after all those things. You know you're not able to progress in your Christian life. It's like having a petrol tank with a big hole and you keep filling fuel, keeping fuel. It just runs empty. You're not able to go anywhere. You're always struggling with this yo-yo. You're not able to move forward in your Christian life. You're always with the guilt and the sin is just pulling you down. How do you deal with it? 1 Peter 2 chapter verse 11. Dear beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul. So we started off with Job, right? Right in the beginning. I have made a covenant with my eyes. Who makes a covenant? He makes a covenant. Who makes captive thoughts? I make. Who abstains? I do. So the Lord has given you the weapons to overcome because sin has no dominion over your life. But be strategic about it rather than being a victim of it. Be strategic about it rather than being a victim of it. Deal with these issues. See it for what it is. And slowly build your immunity. Slowly build your capacity. And then what the devil will do is he'll bring pride. But yeah, for 15 days, you've not got into that. And that moment of pride makes yourself comes up. And then everything gets destroyed again. I go back to the Lord and ask Him for strength. Finally, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. The temptation in your life are no different from what others experience. Can somebody read that? No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful and He will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. No temptation in your life is different from what others experience. Jesus says, do not look at a woman with lust. Paul tells Timothy, flee youthful lust. And I've always wondered, why is the Bible so candid about sexual sin, lust, Old Testament, New Testament, 2000 years back, with no technology, nothing to externally influence. Why does Paul have to tell Timothy that? Why does Peter, being a married man, address these things? Because these things are real. The Bible speaks about man-to-man sexual relationship. The Bible speaks man-to-woman relationship. The Bible speaks about woman-to-woman relationship. The Bible even speaks about bestiality, animal sex. The Bible is very relevant. Read Romans 1. This entire thing about LGBT, when I was in the US, some of my Sunday school teachers, they asked me, Dave Freddy, they were my Sunday school teachers. They asked me, Dave Freddy, how do you deal with this? You know, they say they are made like that. Transgenders, they're made like that. You know, LGBT, how do you deal like that? So I'm a very cocky fellow, I gave a super answer. Anna, I am attracted to the opposite sex. I'm straight. Right? That doesn't mean every woman I see, I jump. Outside my marriage, it is adultery. Forcefully, if I do it, it is rape. Even in context of my marriage, I have to respect my wife. Correct? I am naturally attracted, to the opposite sex, so I can't do what I want to do. Do you accept that? So even with the same argument that I am attracted to the same sex, God calls it sin. You don't bring any other word. God calls it sin. You say that is a true nature. Tomorrow a guy will say, I am attracted to 2-year-old young girls. I like to see them nude. That is my nature. Why do you call that fellow a pedophile? Where does it stop? So don't try to emotionalize and rationalize, see things as God says what it is. You get into the trap, the devil has already got you. He'll try to make you rationalize sin. Everybody is doing it. So what? Didn't you feel good doing it? So what? Keep yourself pure. How shall a young man cleanse his ways? How can I keep myself pure? I don't care how spiritual your boyfriend, girlfriend is. Any time before marriage, he says, let's give a kiss, you know what it is for. That's exactly where the devil wants you to be. These are real issues we face today. Porn is real, lust is real. The devil has just increased the intensity. I deal with guys who are affected by pornography from the time they are 10 years old in India. And how it leads them into adultery, how it leads them into different kinds of things. They don't speak about it, but they're squirming inside. They're saying, and I want to come out of it. I don't know how. Just like that young girl who had the guts to call me and say, can Jesus still forgive me? I said, absolutely. He understands the power of sin. And he has died on the cross to forgive you of that sin, of that past. He puts the sin into the deepest waters and forgets it. But the only way I can help you, not with motivational speech, I've given you how it works. What is good, the devil uses it to disturb, distort, distract, and finally destroy you. He puts you in his lap, makes you sleep, and while in the comfort you sleep, he shaves off your hair and starts to subdue you. The music team, the only way we can break this is come to the Lord and say, Lord, here I am. I'm not hiding behind anything. This is my struggle. Men have their struggles in their own way. Women have their struggles in their own way. Both manifest in its own ways. But deal with it. Understand the battle is real. Food is necessary. Fire is necessary. But when it goes beyond the purpose for what it is given, it will destroy. Maintain your limits. Be like a Joseph. Not like David, being in the wrong place when you were supposed to be in the battlefield. Always ask the Lord, Lord, am I where you want me to be physically? Sometimes you get caught in that physical space because you don't have the grace to sustain in that place. Joseph was where God wanted him to be, so he had the grace to come out of it. But David, instead of being in the battlefield, was in the palace. And look at how the devil brings things. I've always wondered what would have happened if David, instead of seeing a Bathsheba, saw a buffalo like we see in the Kuam. He wouldn't have done that. Would he have said, wow, what a hot buffalo? Look at the timing, bro. He gets up from the sleep as if somebody has kept an alarm clock. He comes and he's there, and there he sees. And the Bible doesn't hide. It says she was beautiful. She was pretty. So your natural weakness, you have enough time to call her. The attraction, attention triggered the arousal in you, but there was still enough time for the action. Yes or no? He didn't jump from the balcony. All along, his lust was burning within planning how to do it, where to do it, right? That's the time. Every man is drawn by his own lust. There's a time gap between the attraction, the attention that you get, and the arousal and that you have till the action is completed. You see the pattern? That's why Paul says, we know the devices of the devil. Flee, fight it, abstain.